Hey, let's talk a little bit about the linear correlation coefficient. The linear correlation coefficient we generally talk about as R. You are probably going to see things as R squared. So just remember, to go from R squared to R, we simply take the square root. So the square root of R squared equals R. There's a little side note. Now, things about the linear correlation coefficient. It is going to be between 0 and 1. If you have an R value of 0, that means there is no linear correlation, like absolutely none. If you have an R value of 1, that means you have perfect correlation. So the LCC, the linear correlation coefficient, quantifies the strength or weakness of the correlation, which is the relationship between X and Y. So the two variables that we're talking about. So first, if we just talk about the strength of the correlation, if you find R, this is kind of a way to talk about it. Anything that is below 0.3 is either very weak or none. Like, do we even need to talk about this? If it's between 0.3 and 0.49, it's weak. Weak. 0.5 to 0.69 we'd call moderate. 0.7 to 0.89 is strong, and anything over 0.9 is very strong. Now, whether it's positive or negative is very similar to that of slope. So if we have ourselves a scatter plot, and then I draw in my trend line, forgetting even about R, it doesn't matter, I can say because this line here has a positive slope, then we would say it also has a positive correlation. And we would use one of these strength words in here as well if we knew the R value. Similarly, if we had this piece here and we drew in our trend line, because this has a negative slope, it would have a negative correlation. Okay, so just kind of the visual of that. So what do you know about this correlation from R? Well, when we look, we are given that R squared is 0.8885. We don't care about R squared. We need R. So we're going to take the square root of both sides because we know the square root of R squared is R, and the square root of 0.8885 is 0.9426. So because that is above 0.9, this is a very strong positive correlation, right? I know it's positive because my line is going up. You can also look at your slope. Our slope is positive, so that means we have a positive correlation. And because R is above 0.9, it's very strong. So make sure you're paying attention. This graph gave us R squared, and we had to find R from there. So if a graph had an R squared of 0.3439, what rating would you give the correlation? Okay, once again, we've got a square root both sides. So that would give me an R equals 0.5864. Now, we would say this is moderate. I can't tell you if it's positive or negative without the graph or more information, because R squared is always going to be positive, always. So we don't know we'd have to see the graph, but this would have a moderate correlation based off that information.